Ladies and gentlemen, new season, new studio, new Dynasty content. We're back. If you want the Dynasty content in season, do us a huge favor and drop a like on this video. You got to beat the Redraft channel, but we are, of course, going to prioritize our Dynasty people because you guys are our friends and our best audience. Let's go to the stock up guys for the week in Dynasty. What we're going to do is talk about guys that stock up this week, stock down this week, and then some potential market plays. Because basically this, a quick little strategy blurb for you Dynasty players in season. Dynasty players in season can make mistakes. We made mistakes in the past playing Dynasty and also giving advice for Dynasty Fantasy Football because we, overreacted and sold people high without a huge sample size of actual production in fantasy football. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of that now. We are going to give you, of course, we're going to watch the market and see which guys are stock up, stock down, and tell you how we feel about it and what you should be doing. But then we're going to give you market plays because every week in Dynasty during the season, there are market plays that you can make to potentially get value wins. You have the opportunity to get a lot of value wins in season. And so we're going to help you do that with these videos. We're going to try to do them every Tuesday. Again, if this one gets enough positive feedback, we will do this. Nobody's ever been able to do Dynasty content in season. So I'm hoping our audience is the audience that actually takes it and says, hey, actually, you can do Dynasty content in season. Let's talk about stock up. Let's start with Keon Coleman. How much did we give Keon Coleman as a buy this offseason? I don't feel like we did a lot, but
no,
I mean,
it wasn't super often.
And honestly,
we were on the fence. It was more like it was build dependent on whether he was a hold or a sell or maybe very rarely a buy. But
so you've already seen after Sunday night's game, he jumped from wide receiver 42 to wide receiver 38 and climbing. So you do have him making a market jump after week one. This, in my opinion, is warranted. Keon Coleman, he did a couple of things that I talked about in the DFF video that I wanted to point out to you Dynasty people because it makes a bigger difference for you because Keon Coleman, of course, is 23 years old. And so, you look at Keon Coleman and you're very encouraged because he was pretty raw coming out. He's actually 22 years old. He's not even 23 yet.
Yeah.
So his 3-year outlook in Dynasty, if this continues, is going to look very good. When you look at Keon Coleman and what he was doing in this game, again, last year you saw him and you're looking at his analytics last year. Yards per catch last year, 19.17. In game one for the Buffalo Bills, that was down to 14. And if it stays like this, I think you're going to be in good shape. Yes, his yards per target was about the same as it was last year, but the type of targets that Keon Coleman was getting in week one were different than the type of targets he was getting last year. And it showed some development, not only in Keon Coleman as a route runner, which I think you saw pretty clearly, but also you saw two areas of development with Keon Coleman that you hadn't necessarily seen last year. I saw some development, again, as a route runner for Keon Coleman, and he was getting some of those out-breaking and in-breaking routes that you weren't seeing him win on last year. You also saw development in how much Josh Allen trusted him consistently as the Bills were down 15 in this game, going Keon Coleman's way, throwing him the ball, showing that he trusts him, and actually Keon Coleman, from a snap perspective, was the wide receiver one on the Bills and was on the field more than any other wide receiver. He was the guy on the field for 1 wide receiver sets, 2 wide receiver sets, 3 wide receiver sets. It's very good. Usage-wise, utilization-wise, production-wise, from a route running standpoint, you saw all positive things. What we needed from Keon in Dynasty was for him to take a step forward as a route runner and for him to be utilized more as a true wide receiver one. I don't know if that's his upside still, but my goodness, you love what you saw from Keon Coleman in week one. And I personally will say I think the moving him up Dynasty rankings is warranted. I will be moving him up my rankings even after 1 week just because it does look like he has taken a step forward.
Yeah, I already did move him up my rankings, actually. Not too much, and I think the Dynasty community has done a good job of not shooting him up boards so quickly after 1 week because, in fairness, the Bills aren't going to score 40 points every single week. They're not going to, have these 2 touchdown runs in the last 3 to 4 minutes of the game where Keon doubles his production, right? So I think a lot of people are being realistic with that, and I totally understand it, and I'm in support of it. But like you were saying with that route running, this is honestly a big reason that in the offseason we weren't necessarily going out of our way to say that Keon Coleman's the biggest buy of all time. We did in the early offseason, and then we cooled off a little bit because of how poor his reception perception was in 2024 as a rookie. And even though he was raw and we thought that he was going to need to develop, that route running against man and press coverage, 3rd and 8th percentile respectively, and 23rd in zone, that was you're going to have an unprecedented jump as a route runner to be a huge stock up riser. And it looks like he's put the work in, at least so far, because he was
good.
winning. Yeah, he looked really solid. So again, we're not going to go crazy on Keon and be after week one. He's go buy him and expect him to shoot up and triple in value. we'll see what ends up happening here, but it's all good signs so far for Keon Coleman. I would be really excited if I was an owner of him. Harold Fannin Jr. is our next guy here. Harold Fannin's usage, his utilization in that offense was very, very interesting, and I think it's something that's not necessarily exclusive or mutually exclusive with David Njoku's usage in that offense, because guess what? All of the people that suspected that Harold Fannin might actually just be utilized as a wide receiver, it's looking like they're correct, because Fannin and Njoku actually were on the field consistently at the same time, and where Harold Fannin was actually lining up was as a wide receiver on the field, and David Njoku was more your traditional tight end. You kind of saw that in how he was utilized as more of a wide receiver in college, even though he was listed as a tight end. And that'll be interesting to continue to follow moving forward, as Joe Flacco is the quarterback for the Cleveland Browns for the foreseeable future. Fannin had 9 targets, 7 receptions for 63 yards in his rookie debut. I mean, that's Tyler Warren level volume. And again, he's not like a guy that has a Tyler Warren level skill set, because he wasn't really playing a tight end role. So that's what makes Harold Fannin really, really interesting, and I think is going to be something that we're going to want to continue to eye. Obviously, he's going to be a guy that just naturally is going to move up boards quite a bit here, because of that production. And I also think that is very merited. I will say I think he's a guy that I think will have more of a cap ceiling than some of the other rookies that we're going to continue to talk about today, including Keon Coleman. I think you'll only see Fannin go so far up boards because of how poor his situation is, and because of how up in the air that situation is. I think long term, in terms of the volume that's going to be offered for quarterbacks not named Joe Flacco, and Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman also getting their own in that game as well. It's just not something that I think I'm going to super trust long term. I don't think we're going to have consistent 10 target games for Harold Fannin for the rest of the season. So might want to hold on to Fannin at the moment and not freak out on him yet. I want to see a bigger sample size for him.
Zach Charbonnet is going to be a riser for us this week, and a riser in everywhere in Dynasty, because what you saw is Zach Charbonnet take the lion's share, essentially. And I say lion's share, it was really like a 60-40 split. He had more snaps than Kenneth Walker in week 1. He had more carries than Kenneth Walker in week 1. And so, a lot of people are pointing at this and saying, okay, maybe Kenneth Walker does not have the vice grips on the backfield like we thought he did. And to that, I would say, yeah, I think that's probably fair. Now, in terms of how much he's going to move up Dynasty rankings, he's a stock-up guy for us this week, but it looks like people are still going to be a little bit skeptical of long-term who the actual bell cow there is going to be, if there is a bell cow, because even if Zach Charbonnet is getting the type of usage he got this week in that game with Kenneth Walker, it doesn't necessarily mean that Zach Charbonnet is going to be getting the level of volume to produce consistently as like a high-end running back 2 even, because these guys really do look like they're truly splitting the backfield. And so for us, I do understand why people still have a little bit of pause with Zach Charbonnet, but in terms of his stock, he is moving up Dynasty rankings, because it does look like he is going to be somebody who gets a significant amount of carries in that offense, even if it doesn't immediately mean he's the running back 1 there. So we'll keep an eye on that situation, but Zach Charbonnet is a riser this week.
Just give me the Knucks. Give me the Knucks on Tyler Warren.
Long Knucks now.
Yeah. He looks really, really, really solid and like a focal point in that offense. Again, you're not going to see every single week the Colts dropping 30-plus points to lackluster defenses and terrible franchises right now like the Miami Dolphins. But I think what you did see is it was kind of a statement move at the very beginning of the game. Everyone knows that, in the NFL, your first drive is always scripted. The first 10 to 15 plays of every single game plan are scripted. You call them no matter what, essentially. And what you saw is a statement by Shane Steichen that Tyler Warren is here and Tyler Warren is going to be utilized, and Tyler Warren is going to get the ball consistently from here on out. Not only did he get those 3 targets in the first drive of his first game in the NFL, but he finished the day with 9 targets, and in tight end premium formats scored I think 17 or 18 points. So he's looking real solid. He got a couple of red zone targets as well. One of them was an end zone target where he was legit tackled by the DB, and for whatever reason they didn't call PI. So this is something that's very encouraging. Not only is he just getting consistent target volume, but where is that target volume taking place? You're getting a lot of usage in the red zone, which is really, really good to see. It's really encouraging. The target volume raises his floor. The end zone targets raise his ceiling. So we were toying with the idea of ranking him over Sam Laporta in Dynasty. I think Avery had him at tight end 3 officially in Dynasty over Sam Laporta. I wasn't quite there yet because emotionally I didn't want to. I couldn't handle that. I have him at tight end 3 now in Dynasty. Yes, after 1 week of performance here, and this is just because it's a less crowded room there. Michael Pittman's very productive. Josh Downs is going to have some productive weeks. You obviously have Jonathan Taylor in the run game who's going to produce as well. But this isn't a Lions offense where it's going to be JMO or Laporta, and then you have Amon-Ra, and now apparently Isaac Tesla is going to get more opportunities and usage as a potential starter there in that offense, which makes you worried. What an absolute catch for him. But again, with Tyler Warren, guys, if you invested in him before this move happened, I think you got to be ecstatic. Avery made a move for Tyler Warren right before the season started, like last Sunday, where he traded Trey McBride for Warren and 2 firsts. That's already a huge market win. So stock up on Tyler Warren, deservedly so. At this point, I would not go out of my way to buy him high.
All right, Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt. I mean, he was absolutely electric in his first game in the NFL. He was dynamite. He had only 10 carries on 33% snap share, but had 82 yards, averaged 8.2 yards per carry, and had a touchdown. Look, it's his first game in the NFL, and they didn't even use him, and he's still scoring 14 points in his first game. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm buying the hype on Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt. I mentioned this in a video where we talked about him earlier in the offseason. We talked about it on 3 separate videos, or going back to as early as August, where we told you when he was getting training camp hype that he was probably a buy because this seemed like a training camp story that was probably going to have legs, and it has legs. They ended up trading B-Rob, obviously, but even with Eckler, they split this backfield. Eckler was obviously the receiving guy, had 3 targets, 3 receptions, but Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt out-carried him. And look, I wonder if Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt isn't the red zone back there. I'm all in on Ja'Cory for a couple of reasons. I think they're only going to ramp up his usage here. I also think that the second Eckler gets hurt, which looking at Eckler, he played 12 games last year. He played 14 games the year before. In 2020, he played 10 games. So, I mean, he has a pretty lengthy history of missing time, and he's already 30 years old. If he does go down, Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt, his value, he's going to be valued as a 6th-round pick in Dynasty. Mark my freaking words, it will happen because he's already at like the 9th round. He's already at 8th, 9th round right now in the Dynasty market rankings. And look, I with Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt, he's also a very good talent. He's older. He's 24 years old. And so his 3-year outlook, I don't know, could be shaky. But if he has a dynamite rookie year, look, they're going to roll with him for his entire rookie contract. And he has got his 4 years on that, buddy. And so he's obviously when he's not, when he's coming off his rookie contract, we're going to have a different discussion about him because he's going to already be almost 28 years old. And so that's something that we have to talk about in the future. But we play Dynasty in 3-year outlooks, at most 3-year outlooks. And so looking at Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt here, I think his 3-year outlook right now looks pretty good, especially if he continues to have the type of season that he started with. Obviously, it's 1 week. I don't want to overreact, but I see things going Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt's way in Washington, and that's why. And from a Dynasty standpoint, I would shop for him and maybe consider buying him. I'm not saying he's like a hard smash buy after 1 week. Again, we're not overreacting to any of these guys. We're just observing the market here. The market is going up on Ja'Cory Croskey Merritt, and I personally think it's warranted.
We finally get to see now who the lead running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars this year is going to be, and that's looking to be Travis Etienne as long as he's staying healthy. Honestly, the Tank Bigsby news and him being traded away from Jacksonville actually it's also very encouraging for Bashul Tutin, I think long term, because Etienne will probably be out of Jacksonville after this season. So you're really looking at a 1-year rental for a guy like Etienne, where as a contender, if you want to get a cheaper, productive running back, Etienne is probably going to be your go-to here after he had a really solid week 1 showing in a Liam Cohen offense. That offense already looks quite a bit better, I think, than it did last season. So with Etienne, what prices would you be paying for Etienne personally? Right now he's value equivalent to Alvin Kamara. I would rather have Alvin Kamara right now on keep trade cut.
I'm not buying Etienne.
I don't think I would be buying Etienne actually at all. At second thought, I was talking about the 1-year rental, and if you want to invest in him for cheap, you can do that. He's not actually cheap anymore, so I changed my mind. Yeah. I think that's a little bit too big of a jump for Etienne for a guy where like Tutin, look what Allen was getting usage. Actually,
they did just trade away Tank Bigsby, so maybe they're
maybe they want to
invest in him long term too, because his rookie contract is going to be up.
And Etienne, you're saying? Yeah.
So I'm not saying to buy him because
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying I think it's possible because of the moves that have been made.
I wouldn't
recently
say it's impossible, but I do think the writing is on the wall, honestly, long term for when they drafted 2 running backs this year, day 3, and might look at reinvesting next year as well if Tootin doesn't really work out this season. That's just my opinion, but.
I mean, yeah, they're gonna have to make a decision on him. I mean, we let's see how this goes. We can't agree on this. He would have been a good buy during training camp, huh?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah. You made me feel like a huge idiot for that, and I was 100% right. Exactly.
Hey, I was right about Bigsby though.
Well, right, but I said Etienne was. There's a lot of backstory to this. I said Etienne.
Yeah.
I tried to put Etienne on a buys video before, and Nathan legitimately.
I thought you tried to put Bigsby.
No, it was Travis Etienne, and you told me how bad he was, and I was like, "Well, I think he's going to
jump
jump
up
in
value." Because we didn't know if
value.
it was going to be Etienne or Bigsby.
I did. I was like, I think it's
Yeah,
Etienne.
hey, I'll give you credit for that.
Thank you. All right,
Good
then,
job.
then I don't care. All right, let's go to the next guy here. Dylan Sampson. So this one's interesting. Obviously, during the draft, we were pretty consistent on we don't think Dylan Sampson is going to affect Quinshon Judkins. We don't think Dylan Sampson is going to have a role. This was obviously before Quinshon Judkins got into legal trouble. And so we couldn't have foreseen that coming. But since it did, what has happened is Dylan Sampson has jumped in and now has a role there in Cleveland as the primary receiving back in that offense.
It is a receiving role.
He had 8 targets, 8 receptions, 64 yards. Again, and he had 14 of his 17.5 points in week 1.
In the air.
But he also had 12 carries. That's nothing to, I mean, even though he only averaged 2.4 yards per carry, which is a little bit of what I'm worried about with Dylan Sampson, it's still nothing to scoff at. And Dylan Sampson is 20 years old.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Nathan and I both kind of agree on this. I think 2 things. Number 1, I think that Dylan Sampson could be used as the receiving back in that offense. But number 2, and I also still think he won't affect Quinshon Judkins when he comes back.
Yep.
But the other thing that I do think could have happened here is because Quinshon kind of, shot himself in the foot, or you could say punched himself in the foot. I think Dylan Sampson may have wiggled his way into a role here more than we thought would happen because Quinshon ended up being out for reasons we couldn't have foreseen. And so Dylan Sampson's a riser right now in Dynasty. A lot of you guys were high on Dylan Sampson. We liked Dylan Sampson as a process, but you guys were higher on him, and you guys are going to end up probably being correct. Right now, he's not really jumping up a ton in Dynasty, and here's what I would say to this. The same thing I said on the DFF channel. If you can get Dylan Sampson for as cheap as he's going right now, running back 36 prices.
He's right there by Braylon Allen.
I mean, I would take him over Braylon
I would
Allen
take him
in
over
a
Braylon.
heartbeat.
Yeah.
Dylan Sampson is the type of backup or second string running back that you actually want to have.
Yep.
The receiving backs, the guys that are getting that much target volume. And again, we'll see what his usage looks like week over week. And when Quinshon comes back, it's obviously going to affect him, and it's why people are being conservative with how they're ranking Dylan Sampson right now. But I will say this. I think there is a possibility Dylan Sampson has a role there. And so I think from a long-term perspective in Dynasty, I think you could be looking at both Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson being productive in that offense. And it would make Dylan Sampson a little bit more valuable than he is now. So something to keep an eye on in the next couple weeks.
So Emeka Egbuka, I just want to know right now, where do you have him ranked in Dynasty?
Here's the thing, like who do I move him over?
I have him back to back with Garrett Wilson, and I think in the coming weeks I could eventually have him jumping Garrett Wilson.
So you're high. So you have him over Rome.
Yeah, oh yeah. I have him over Rome right now.
I'm not there yet.
I have him at wide receiver 16.
So you have him over AJ Brown, Rashee Rice.
I do.
See, I would still take Rice over
because
Egbuka.
when you're thinking 3-year outlook for these guys, what's your 3-year outlook situationally for the Tampa Bay Bucks wide receiver room? A injury-prone Chris Godwin and a retiring Mike Evans. And
that's true.
Again, that's kind of why he was drafted to begin with here. So again, I don't think I'm like going ultra crazy with Egbuka. I think you're going to have psychos in the coming weeks. Again, I'm moving Egbuka to a point where I'm like, it's going to be hard for me to move him any higher at this point. Whereas I think over the coming weeks, while Egbuka continues to produce before Godwin comes back, you're going to have Egbuka sniffing top 12.
Okay.
And at that point, we can kind of have a greater discussion here. But I do think Egbuka's floor from here on out is going to be pretty solid because you're always going to have the status of Evans and Godwin long-term in this offense in question. And that is going to be reason enough for the market to be pretty high on Egbuka from here on out.
I get it. Like, here's how I'm messing with it right now in my rankings, and here's how
I do think you're looking at a tier of Wilson, Egbuka,
it's a
AJ
giant
Brown,
tier.
Higgins, Rice, and
it's
Odunze.
AJ Brown, Rice, Wilson, Egbuka, Odunze, Hunter, Higgins,
and Rice. Yep.
I have Rice at the top of that. Yeah. Look, I've got Rice higher than all those guys. In fact, I would put Rice above AJ Brown. We are 5 games away from him coming back.
Yeah, you're right. I would move him over AJ Brown.
In fact, I would probably take Rice. I mean, at the point now that we know his suspension,
Wilson, Egbuka, and Rice, I think, are right by each other.
I agree. And again, I'm taking Rice is going to eat when he comes back, and all of that stuff is going to be behind him. There is nothing. Yeah. I have a 3-year outlook. We are 5 games away from having Rashee Rice fully back. There is no reason not to rank him aggressively. Yep. But with Egbuka, I do get your point, and so I do have him back to back with Garrett Wilson as well. AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Egbuka, Odunze, and Hunter all in the same tier. It's hard to rank those guys. I literally could shuffle them around any way I want to, but obviously a big riser, and I'm definitely glad we told people to buy him early because he did exactly what we thought he was going to do at the beginning of the season. It's a rare domain and W right there. Yep. Not victory lapping. Sorry, we don't want to piss anybody off. JJ McCarthy. How you feel? I guess you don't really have the disdain toward JJ McCarthy that you had once, but McCarthy's a riser because he actually
sorry, just registered.
Yeah, he actually did, look good in his first week.
I was the biggest advocate for buying JJ McCarthy early offseason because everyone was like, Sam Darnold's going to re-sign with the Vikings.
No, that's true. That was
come on.
That was a funny one. Yeah. He hasn't really climbed to dynasty rankings. We just had the game last night, obviously, but I do think people are going to look at JJ McCarthy and what he was able to do on the ground, having a rushing touchdown, and also only throwing the ball 20 times and still scoring 23 fantasy points. It's pretty impressive. And so I think with McCarthy, the thing is, he was already valued in the late 4th round of dynasty drafts. I'm not sure how much higher he goes than that. I'm not sure how much higher his ceiling is. And so you're looking at an issue where it's like, at what point does JJ McCarthy just stop climbing because there is no more room for him to grow? He's already closer to that point than a lot of guys on this list. And so, but JJ McCarthy did look good, and it's definitely worth monitoring. If he can keep the dual threat thing, he's going to be dynamite in dynasty. All right, let's pivot to some guys now that are stock down in our eyes after week 1. It doesn't necessarily mean we're moving them down our rankings because we're definitely not going to overreact to 1 week, but these are guys that the community is looking at, the market is looking at. The market has lowered on these guys after seeing their involvement during preseason, during camp, and then during the first game of the season, so we need to address it. First one. Yeah,
Tyreek Hill going to be the first one here, kind of in that old productive vets category in terms of like dynasty assets. And he's just not necessarily looking like he's going to have the same consistent ceiling that he had a couple of years ago. That's just the nature of a 31-year-old wide receiver. Like you're going to see that natural regression. I still think Tyreek Hill is going to have plenty of productive weeks this year, but that offense is looking uglier.
Kaleb Johnson, look, I mean, we were as high on Kaleb Johnson as anybody.
It's gonna be a while before he gets usage.
It is. I mean, obviously you saw Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren. I'm not freaking out about Kaleb Johnson, but unfortunately, we were telling you to invest in Kaleb Johnson a little bit too high, and so I do think we're gonna have to. I think ultimately we already have to take an L on that one, because he's already dropped so much. We literally told people to invest, and he lost value.
The market play was wrong. So
it was absolutely wrong, and so apologies for that. But long term, I do think Kaleb Johnson still could be something. I do think in terms of this should teach us a lesson in terms of evaluating prospects who are good prospects. By the way, there are certain offensive situations in the NFL and certain offensive schemes where there are exceptions to the rule in terms of being a 3rd-round pick and not getting any usage. We saw this with Kendre Miller, who was also a 3rd-round pick, went to a team that didn't really care he was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, the difference. They
hated him.
It's the bakery tier.
I know. I understand, which is why long-term I'm still in on Kaleb Johnson.
Yeah.
But if we should have known if there was any offense in the NFL that Kaleb Johnson could go to and not correctly be utilized, it was an Arthur Smith offense.
Well, that's my thing though, is we don't even know that yet because he hasn't been utilized.
But that's the thing. Like, should he be utilized?
He's third.
I think he's better than Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, I agree. So I wouldn't necessarily say that just because he's on the Steelers means that he's never going to be productive.
No, I don't think so, but it definitely means it. But the lesson here is there was a decent chance that he was not going to be productive at first, and we didn't recognize that. We probably should have recognized that. I mean, this is the guy that played Bijan Robinson 50% of his snaps in his first game.
I just who would have thought that Kenneth Gainwell was going to be second in the depth chart over Kaleb Johnson right now? And it's just honestly a big part of it was the pass protection was not there with Kaleb Johnson as a rookie prospect, and he struggled with that in training camp. He's going to have to work on that, and we'll see when he gets
I'm not out on him long term. I still believe in Kaleb Johnson a lot.
Yeah.
So.
DJ Moore is a little shaky here. I think we started toying with this idea of what really is DJ Moore's value ceiling here if we're going to project out that Rome Odunze is going to establish himself as a wide receiver 1 in that offense. And lo and behold, week 1, Odunze pretty much doubles the targets that DJ Moore gets in that game. And again, this could easily flip in the coming weeks. That is very, very possible. So we're not going to freak on DJ Moore, but he is losing value for a reason. And it's because that target volume is just you've seen the floor of what his target volume could be in a game where Caleb Williams threw the ball like 30 plus times. So that's a little bit concerning. He's value equivalent to the guys like Cortland Sutton, the other vets here, Cortland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, etc., which I think is where he belongs.
Colston Loveland, I mean, you haven't actually seen his price move yet, but I think you will as the season goes on. And what we learned from week 1 and Colston Loveland, honestly, the whole Bears, the Bears, is there a lot of mouths to feed there? And honestly, they're going to have to.
I mean, you could put Burden on here too, stock down for Burden.
I'm pretty worried about both those guys in terms of their year 1 production. But at the same time, I'm not super worried because we knew that Loveland was never probably going to produce in
not
year 1. He was out targeted by Komet 4 to 2. He had more receptions than Komet. But at the same time with Loveland, I just think it's going to be next year for Loveland. We've thought that all along. And so I wouldn't freak out about Loveland if you have him. I'd just hold him for sure.
Yep. And Josh Downs, same with him. I think we're going to hold with Josh Downs at the moment because he's lost a bit of value as well. Kind of want to see what happens in better game plans for like a more Josh Downs friendly game plan where they're not just walking all over Miami and then run the ball the entire second half, because why the heck would they pass it when they're up 30? That this was one where like, hey, you saw those splits, and yes, it's true. Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman will be on the field more consistently, and Alec Pierce, than Josh Downs will be this season. And that is a little bit concerning. I will say though, like, when Josh Downs is on the field, he is the most efficient with his snap share opportunity, where like they will scheme him up to get touches when he is on the field. So we'll see in the coming weeks here, again, against better competition. Like they've got Denver, I think, week 2. I think there are going to be more opportunities for Josh Downs to have better weeks than he did in week 1. So we're not going to freak about Downs yet. He has fallen as well. I think below DeAndre Swift at this point on Keep Trade Cut, value equivalent to Javonte, Darnold, James Conner, Tony Pollard, those types of guys. So I think that's a reasonable price for him after the week 1 showing, which was a little bit concerning in terms of what his consistent usage could be for the entire season.
All right, we've given you our stock up, stock down now. 5 applicable market plays for you and your Dynasty team. You can try to play the market against people who suck at Dynasty who want to sell after 1 week.
Yep.
My first one is A.J. Brown. People in Dynasty will find any reason possible to short A.J. Brown. You've already seen his market value fall since that Thursday game quite a bit. I will buy A.J. Brown low. If you can get him as the wide receiver 3 on your team, that is absolutely slam dunk material. Even as the wide receiver 2, I do think he raises your upside if you're pivoting from somebody else in that range who may not have the upside that A.J. Brown does, for example, like a Travis Hunter. I don't mind the Travis Hunter A.J. Brown pivot right now at all, and they're ranked back-to-back in Keep Trade Cut. I don't mind the T. Higgins to A.J. Brown pivot right now. And honestly, A.J. Brown's a wide receiver 1 in that offense, which is why, again, I think inherently he gives you more upside. I don't mind the Jameson Williams slight up tier to A.J. Brown. They're very close in market value rankings. If you can pivot to A.J. Brown and buy low on him after week 1, and again, you're saying, oh, this doesn't happen in my league. If you play in a sharp league, sure, it might not happen. But a lot of people play in home Dynasty leagues, in casual Dynasty leagues, in Dynasty leagues where people don't make the best decisions. And in those types of leagues, these are the moves we're making. A.J. Brown, number 1 here.
Kind of like a hybrid market play here, dual market play. Rashee Rice and Quinshon Judkins, 2 guys that are not on the field that will be on the field soon.
Yep.
Rashee Rice, when you looked at how the Chiefs were operating their offense, you could tell they missed Rashee Rice, just like they did last year. Those quick hitters across the middle of the field, like 5 yards down the field, where it's literally out of Mahomes' hands before the center even gets the ball to him. That is a dream for Rashee Rice. PPR machine. He will not even he will feast so much it's not even funny. Everyone's going to forget about all this legal stuff by the time that he's back week 7, and he'll be probably a top 16 Dynasty wide receiver without question.
I'm pleading with you. He is the biggest buy.
He is 100%. Quinshon Judkins is also going to be a buy here. Have you seen his Keep Trade Cut graph here? I put it on the doc. It is comical. Yeah. Like, it is so comical. We're going to look back at this next offseason and look at Quinshon Judkins and his value, and we're going to laugh right now. Or we're going to laugh about the time when Quinshon Judkins' value was cut in half, and then he had the little boop when the charges were dropped, and then he fell almost all the way back down again to where he was because people actually thought he was going to go back to college, and now he's probably going to be the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns. And after getting a fully guaranteed rookie contract, which what else did you expect when they invested in an early
after all of that, they paid him a fully guaranteed deal. Why do you think they did that? This is coming from a lot of people who said that he wasn't even going to get signed. Why do you think they paid him a fully guaranteed deal?
This is just him in the second round. I understand hindsight is 2020, But our foresight was 2020 on this, man. Like, this was so easy to predict. And Judkins hasn't even touched the field yet. He has not touched the field, and he's already getting closer to what he was valued at before all this stuff happened.
And if you bought low on him, you're just holding through all this before he inevitably goes right back up to where he was.
When he has a goal line carry.
As soon as he gets a goal line carry, he's right back up to where he was valued before. Darnell Mooney, if you are a contender, Darnell Mooney is a good buy for you this week. He's also a good buy in fantasy leagues as well. But in dynasty leagues, I think you're still getting 2 more productive years out of Darnell Mooney. But he's just somebody that, when we're talking about raising the upside of your flex spots, Darnell Mooney right now is going at like backup flex spot prices. And so you can raise the upside of your depth on your team by just investing in Darnell Mooney for super cheap. He's injured right now, so he's an easy dynasty. He's not a sexy dynasty asset. He's an easy buy, and I would just package him to go, again, stack your depth and get flex spot upside. So.
Yeah, I think Coker's a nice little market play here too. One of the big pieces of news that kind of flew under the radar, it actually wasn't a big piece of news, that's why it flew under the radar, is Adam Thielen getting traded to Minnesota. He's probably going to end his career there. And that, honestly, just in terms of target volume, was a really big plus for Jalen Coker, who is going to play the exclusive slot receiver role in that offense. Ted McMillan, obviously the wide receiver 1 there. But I think you saw even in week 1 for Carolina, they really struggled to get anything going consistently there offensively. And part of that is you need a short to intermediate target that can kind of help open up the field for your more like big play deep threats like Leggett and your do-it-all wide receivers like Ted McMillan. So I think Coker could actually get a decent amount of work here once he comes back healthy from this injury. He goes on IR. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. So while he's putting up, goose eggs, zeros, because he's not playing at the moment with that injury, I think if you can afford it and your team's looking pretty good and you might need that like midseason push later, go and get Coker at a discount before he moves up boards when he starts getting some nice target volume in the slot.
So again, drop a like if you enjoy the in-season Dynasty content. We're trying something new. We definitely want to keep bringing you Dynasty content all year round. And I definitely think, after recording this video, I definitely think all of this is super applicable for Dynasty in season. This is something that we are watching in terms of Dynasty values and moves we are making in our leagues. Where, again, you can take value wins in your leagues. So
playing the market doesn't stop in the middle of the season.
In fact, the season is one of the better times to play the market.
Playing the market. So,
this is when Dynasty leagues are won, and people tend to just check out. I wouldn't check out. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you enjoy the Dynasty content. Also, you want to get your team reviewed, we can do a team blueprint for you. We can tell you whether you should rebuild or contend this season, so you can check that out. The link in the pinned comment. You can use code DOMAIN. The annual Motherflocker tier gets you not only that team blueprint, it's going to get you a blueprint every week of the season to help you with your starting lineup, trade targets, market plays, etc. And so take advantage of that. Code DOMAIN, annual Motherflocker tier. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you later.